Okay, there are two problems or two or three problems that were on your homework problems that we will go through today. Your homework for today is going to be the completion of the worksheet. Like I said, there's a couple problems that we're going to go through today that will help you. We haven't talked about parallel perpendicular lines. That's what we'll talk about today. All right, what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at these lines using X and Y intercepts. Using X and Y intercepts, I want you to graph these three lines here. X intercepts, once again, we're dealing with X intercepts. Y is equal to 0. We're talking about Y intercepts. X is equal to 0. Find your X and Y intercepts for each one of these. Graph these equations. Graph the equations. Use a straight edge to graph the equations. And then find and calculate the slope. Now the slope, you can either look at one or two things. You can go y equals mx plus b. Or you can look at 2 points. You can look at the idea getting in the form y equals mx plus b and calculate the slope that way. But I want you to use your x and y intercept because when you're in standard form, using x and y intercepts is usually a little bit easier to get a graph because you can get 2 points on the line or 2 points on the axis, and you can draw a line through that. Once again, please use a straight edge so you can have some accuracy with this. And feel free to confer with the person beside you or around you.
So it's not supposed to.
All right, let's take a look at these. Once again, I want you to find the x and y intercepts. Sometimes it's a lot easier to get a graph down when you find your x and y intercepts. X-intercept, y is equal to 0. It covers this up. When you have a y-intercept, x is equal to 0. That covers this up. Oh, and what do you get for the x and y intercepts in the first one? What's the x? I'm sorry, what? 6. What's the y? The value of 3. So I cross my x-axis at 6. I cross my y-axis at a value of 3. Back in geometry, you learned the number of points you need to determine a line. You need at least 2 points to determine a line. That gives me my 2 points to determine this line. So if I draw my graph through these 2 points, I get the graph of the line. This is the equation It's the equation x plus 2y is equal to 6. Grand Hampshire, what's our slope going to be? 1/2? You sure? I can get in the form y equals mx plus b. I can solve for y. What do you come up with? Negative 1/2. That's correct. We're going downwards to the left. Or downwards to the right. Second one, x and y intercepts. We get our x and y intercepts. Molly, what do you get for x intercept? And the y intercept? Negative 1. So we have negative 2. My x-intercept of negative 2. And my y-intercept of negative 1. And I can draw my graph through those 2 points. And this is the equation x plus 2y is equal to negative 2. The third and final one, we have 2x minus y is equal to 2. What's our x-intercept? What's our y-intercept? Todd? X is a value of 1. Y is negative 2. So I can draw my final graph through these 2 points. Negative 1 and 2. If I look at the slope of the second one, the slope of the second one, what do we get for the slope of the second one, Sarah? Negative 1/2. We have negative 1/2 there also. Oh my. And the third one, when I look at my slope of the third one, what do we get for the slope of the third one, Jalen? 2. So there's our values that we have. Now, if we take a look at the graphs of these, this is the equation 2. If we look at equation number 1 and equation number 2, what can we conclude about the lines that we drew in equation 1 and equation 2, Sean? They're parallel. That's correct. They are parallel slopes, or they're parallel lines. If we take a look at the slopes, what do we say about the slopes then? They're the same slopes, they're equal slopes. So if we have parallel lines, they will have equal slopes. Well, what can we conclude about the graph number 3 when comparing them to graph number 1 and 2? If I look at graph number 3 and compare them to graph 1 and 2, Isaac, what can we say is true about them? What does it look like? If I take a look at graph 1 and 2 and then compare it to graph number 3, what does it look like in regards to our graphs? What's true about these lines? They're perpendicular. They are perpendicular. They are perpendicular. We form a right angle with these lines. So if we now take a look at the slopes, what's true about the slopes of these lines? Well, the slope of both of these lines are -1/2, and the slope of this line is a +2. What is the characteristics that we have in regards to slopes of lines that are perpendicular? Rana, remember? I have +2 and I have -1/2. They're opposite to each other. One's positive, one negative, and then what else? They're flipped. They're opposite reciprocals. They're opposite reciprocals. So we're talking about perpendicular slopes. Perpendicular slopes are going to be opposite and reciprocal. Well, I have an equation here. What is the equation of a line that's parallel and then also perpendicular? There's going to be two different problems here. The first one's going to be parallel. The second one's going to be perpendicular. We're going to have two different equations here. One's going to be parallel, one's going to be perpendicular. We want to be parallel to this line right here. And we want to go through the ordered pair -1, 4. We're going to be parallel to our original line, and we're going to be going through the ordered pair -1, 4. Well, to be parallel to the equation 2x plus 3y is equal to -3, what's the first thing we're going to have to find here? Q?
Slope.
The slope. So we're going to have to look at this equation here, and we're going to have to find what is the slope. The slope is equal to what? Well, if I have an equation 2x plus 3y is equal to -3, I have the form y equals mx plus b that I can get it into, put it in the form, and determine the slope of that original line. 2x plus 3y is equal to -3. Solve for y. Y equals what? And determine what the slope is. Amber, what's the slope? -2/3. So the slope of this original line is -2/3. I can subtract my 2x over. So we have 3y is equal to -2x minus 3. Divide by 3 by 3 by 3. Y equals -2/3 x minus 1. So the slope of my original line is -2/3. So if I look at my slope parallel, what's my slope parallel going to be, Austin?
3/2.
Any slope that is parallel to this original line is going to be what?
I would say.
The same.
So -2.
So we have -2/3.
So we have the slope here of negative 2/3, and we have to go through this order pair at negative 1, 4. So now let's go back to what we did yesterday in regards to point slope. Mx minus x1 is equal to y minus y1. Go ahead, determine the equation of the line, check your answer with somebody around you, and then come to the next one. What's my slope have to be for it to be perpendicular? And determine the equation of the line for the perpendicular line. Do that exact same point, negative 1, 4. Check your answer with somebody around you. Once again, you can have the form of the equation y equals mx plus b or ax plus by is equal to c. Does not matter. Just if you're going ax plus by equals c, make sure there's no fractions in there. Get rid of your fractions. Not more than that. Okay, if we take a look at the first one, slope parallel is negative 2/3. Sub it in. Jenna, what do you get for an equation? Is equal to what? Is equal to 10. Good with that? And once again, if you put it in the y equals mx plus b form and you have y equals negative 2/3 x plus 10/3, that is fine also. Either way is correct. Slope perpendicular, what's our slope perpendicular going to be, Lexi? 3/2, 3/2. Opposite reciprocal, so we have 3/2. X minus negative 1 is equal to y minus 4. The negatives cancel out. What equation do you come down to, Mason? Huh? I'm sorry, what?
I didn't finish this problem.
Let's go. Keep working. Courtney, what do you get?
3x minus 2y
Is equal to what?
negative 11.
Negative 11. You good with that one? Once again, if you have y equals mx plus b form, y equals 3/2 x plus 11/2. That is fine also. Either way is correct. Go to the back side. Find the equation of the line that would be the perpendicular bisector of the segment with endpoints negative or 1/6 and negative 5/2. We are looking for the perpendicular bisector. So we have 1/6 and negative 5 and 2. So we're looking for the perpendicular bisector to this segment. Now we have to go back to the idea of what is our definition of a perpendicular bisector. I'm hoping that we can sit there and say perpendicular, we can handle that. What does it mean to bisect it, Grayson?
Go through it.
Yeah.
Go through the center.
Go to the center, which is what kind of point to the segment? The midpoint. Okay, when you're talking about a bisector, we're going to intersect at the midpoint. A bisector, when you bisect something, you're intersecting it at a midpoint. And we have to do this perpendicularly wise, something like that. So we have to be perpendicular and we have to go through its midpoint. So, what we have to determine here is we have to first determine what is the midpoint between these 2 points. Then we need to have a slope that is perpendicular to these 2 points. So I have to be perpendicular. Well, how do I find the slope given 2 points? Our slope is determined by delta y over delta x. So you got to find your midpoint first. You got to find the slope of the original segment, and then you have to go perpendicular to that slope to the original segment. How we calculate slope, once again, is delta y over delta x. So there's multiple steps to this problem here. First, find your midpoint of the segment. Find the slope of your original segment. How do I find things perpendicular with respect to slope then? Go perpendicular to that. And then determine the equation of the line. Multiple steps here. Check the multiple steps as you're going through with somebody around you. And this is utilizing all the things that we have talked about up till now in this chapter. You have to go back to the idea of midpoints, how to calculate slopes, how to deal with perpendicular stuff. Once again, what this takes us back to is it reviews a lot of the ideas that we've talked about in regards to this chapter. We have to find a midpoint. Okay, we have to go back and remember how to find a midpoint. Kind of what's our midpoint? Negative 2, 4. We add the two values, we average. We have negative 1 minus or plus negative 5 divided by 2. And then we have 6 plus 2 divided by 2. So we have, what'd you say, negative 2 and 4? Okay, so that is our midpoint, the average x and average y values. Then we had to find our slope, delta y over delta x. Jack, what's our slope going to be?
2/3.
2/3. So we have 6 minus 2 over delta y over delta x, 1 minus a negative 5. Okay, so we have 2 over 3 is our slope. Then we go to our slope perpendicular. Justin, what's our slope perpendicular? Negative 3/2. That is correct. So now we have our perpendicular slope. We have the point that we have to go through. So we have negative 3/2. X minus a negative 2 is equal to y minus 4. Okay, we have to be able to find both of those entities in regards to the slope. And then we also have to find the point that we have to go through. So find the equation, Emily. What's our equation going to be?
Y equals -3 divided by 2x.
That's it?
Plus
Plus what?
1.
Plus 1? If you put it in slope intercept, or if you take it into ax plus by is equal to c, okay, we would have, let's see, 3x plus 2y is equal to a value of 2, I think. Is that correct? Okay, once again, either way, I will accept either of the solutions. 3x plus 2y equals 2, or y equals negative 3/2x plus 1. Either way is a correct solution. Questions you have? Now, there's a few problems that were on the worksheet that involve parallel and perpendicularity. You can go back and complete the worksheet. Your homework's going to be just the completion of that worksheet. Monday, we're going to come in, have an in-class assignment. We'll have a combination worksheet of everything put together. Tuesday will be a review day. Wednesday next week will be a quiz over this material. Questions you have? QED, that's done.